Hi
Hey,
there, Anders. How are you?
hi. Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
I'm feeling good. Thanks a lot for joining.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, first of all, how are you and the band feeling about this first coming to Brazil?
Oh yeah, it's been a long time coming. Yeah, definitely been waiting for this like 20 years. And I know we've been in touch with our Brazilian fans for 20 years, you know, talking about this that we hope it will eventually happen. And to be honest, I have no idea why it hasn't happened until now, but now finally, and we are very pumped, very pumped for it.
Are there any special expectations regarding Brazilian fans?
No, not really. We have a sold out show. We start off this tour with a sold out show in Sao Paulo, and I think that's a good incentive. But I don't really know what to expect. I uh, I just hope everything will go well, and that we will come prepared. And I have no hesitations. I think it. My only expectation is that we will do as good well as we can, and it will be very fun, nice to finally meet up with the fans.
Are
That's all I can
there
say.
are there any special plans for Brazil? I mean, any kind of surprise or a different set is prepared for Brazilian fans?
Yeah, we have different sets, a longer set for the first show, in particular the first show. Yeah, and there will be some nice prizes there. Going back to the older albums, and since we haven't played in Brazil before, we are planning something special.
Will you have time to get to know the country, or will it be one of those super busy trips?
Uh, for me personally, maybe a little bit, especially São Paulo, because I will come a week before the first show. So I will travel. The band will travel a couple of days before the show. I will go there a week before and just you know do some sightseeing, hanging out with our manager, and yeah, hopefully look around a bit. So I really wanted to have take the opportunity to since we're going there, and so why not?
What do you hope to experience from the culture here?
Oh, no, only what I have read and seen on TV documentaries stuff from here. I have we have been watching a lot of travel vlogs from São Paulo and Brazil, for example. So what to expect is, I think it's only as good as what I allow myself to do. There's a lot of things to do. I just need, I will follow Caio, my manager, and see what he has in store for it. So yeah, it's a big thing, and I want to do make the best out of it.
Maybe a soccer game.
Maybe. I'm not much into sports, but it would surely be an experience. Yeah,
How do you see the evolution of Draconian music over the years?
that's a big question. Uh, I would say that we established our sound, or what was to become the Draconian sound, quite early on. We've had different stages over the years. Ever since the 90s, we had the stages we tried things out, and a lot of it didn't go anywhere. But the year 2000, we decided to release a promo, and we made a decision to become a Doom, mainly Doom inspired band. And it was with that promo, Frozen Features, where we really felt that we had found our niche, so to say, after all these years. So, and it hasn't changed much since then in 23 years. We have maintained our so-called gothic doom sound or dark metal sound or whatever you want to call it, but with each album or each demo since then, it has of course been a little bit differently seasoned, but we've always maintained the sound which is draconian. But I'm actually very proud and happy that our albums does not all sound the same. That we have gone in different directions a little bit. What we haven't abandoned the sound that made us. So I'm only, for each album, I'm just curious, and I have expectations for the future. I'm just going with the flow. With Draconian, we have been around for so long now, so we go with the flow.
And what message do you hope to convey with your music?
Also a very big question. Well, I think Draconian has always been a band where people they feel things and they read the lyrics and they have a personal connection to it. When it comes to my lyricism over the years, however, whatever inspiration has guided me, whether it's about something mythological, religious, or something that has to do more with life and emotions or love, sorrow, and existentialism, stuff like that. I have realized that there's a lot of people who feel that way. And this kind of music is almost perfect to be the soundtrack for something like this. And I don't know if we're lucky or if we just know what we're doing. I think it both plays in. We know how we want to express ourselves. And Johan's songwriting together with our own, arrangements and my lyrics and vocals and all that, and how we have maintained the beauty versus beast concept. It allows for a duality to flourish that I think is very attractive to people, and we have never deteriorated. We have never left that path. And I think the mournful romantic melodies together with the heaviness and the build-ups and the climaxes together with very heartfelt and personal lyrics, it just proves that there are a lot of people who share these thoughts. And just like me and just like any other person in the band, this music speaks to us. So it's a good way. It's a good way to connect with the fans that way, because we are also fans of music. We also have our influences and people we look up to. So it's nice to be able to see yourself in the fans just as they see themselves in what we write and express.
Do you feel that Lisa's return gave the band a new boost?
Well, Bo, yeah, I don't know if boost is the right way, but it definitely it cemented something that led us with we finally could move forward. Definitely. Heike was unsure ever since the release of Sovran, I think. No, Under Godless Veil, the last album. I think she was a little bit unsure what she wanted to do, if she wanted to tour, if she wanted to focus more on her projects, if she didn't want to decide, book herself up too long in advance. That's just how it works when it comes to tours and shows and stuff like that. So I think she wanted to do her own thing, and we were just very, very lucky that we could continue, and that Lisa was so interested in coming back to the band, and it felt like that was the natural thing to do. That was the best thing that could have happened during the circumstances, instead of finding a new vocalist and start over. Also when it comes to people living far away, it was such a long process doing that with Heike, for example. So it definitely made things easier because we all live close, and we can finally start rehearsing on a regular basis, or that's what we did. And we could finally have the tours, and we started playing again. And it feels like we are at the top of our game right now.
And what makes Draconian so unique compared to other doom metal bands?
I don't know. I think that's maybe a question for fans. I don't know. I think maybe one thing that I alluded to earlier is that we have never deviated from our sound. A lot of doom bands, including, you know, like bands that we are very inspired by, and other bands in the 90s, they deviated. They started doing something else, doing the electronic stuff or the alternative rock stuff or the gothic rock stuff or whatever, you know. And nothing wrong with that. People need to experiment and do what they want to do. But I'm happy that Draconian never deviated. I'm glad that we found the foundation and we stuck with it. We still each album still sounds different. We can still be inspired by whatever. We are not going to limit ourselves just because people see us as a gothic doom band. But whatever we do in the future, it will still have that Draconian foundation that probably go under that category. But we will always be a dark metal band in one way or another, whatever influences we have. Next album or the album after can sound very different, but we will still have that core that sounds Draconian. And I think that makes us quite special.
Recently, the albums Arcane Rain Fell and Sovran were re-released on CD in Brazil. Could you share some thoughts on each of them?
Well, Arcane Rain Fell, I would say that's our second album. That's when we felt that we had established a sound. And I think a lot of people realized that it came out at a time where you could still make a classic album. and I think we did that with Arcane Rain Fell. And I think that album still is our most important album when it comes to how loved it is still all over the world. And it cemented us in the foundation of metal music, I would say. It might not be our favorite album, but it's probably the most important album we made, considering everything that came after it. So I would say that's an album that is musically, I would say, my preference. Not production-wise, but sound-wise, but musically, it's my preference. It has everything that I love about Draconian. And it has a lot of the variables on that album is wonderful. And of course, Death Come Near Me, and my favorite song on my Scenery of Loss is on that album. Although I don't like the production on the album, these are probably some of the best songs that were made, in my opinion. And it really set the foundation for us. And Sovran set a different foundation because it's the first album without Lisa, with Heike on vocals. And that became a cult album almost immediately. I have a love-hate relationship with that album because it was a difficult album to record, and there were so many things going on surrounding it. Difficult part in my life personally, but it turned out to be an album that a lot of people revere. They found it very special, and it also contains our most popular song, especially when it comes to streaming services, Rivers Between Us, which allows for a wider audience. So it's a very dark album. It's probably darker than Arcane Rain Fell, but it has meant a lot to people, and that I'm very grateful for, of course. And it's also Heike's the album where Heike really got her notoriety, and yeah, and that's also a very good thing. Very good.
Are you already working on a new album?
Yes, we have been working off and on for a couple of years actually with the song ideas. And now, after this Latin America tour and a couple of other shows that we have, it will be a few months where we don't have that much. So finally going to start writing. I will finally start writing for it. And yeah, it's something I'm looking forward to a lot because the sound of this album, where I heard so far, or the song ideas that I heard so far, leaves for a lot of imagination and inspiration to flow, and I cannot wait to do another album. It's almost, it's 3 years ago this fall we released Under Godless Veil. So if we can record and release the album next year, it would be perfect.
Did the pandemic exert any influence on the writing of this new material?
I think it it was like drowning in the mud a little bit. There's a lot of of course there were Johan did some demo versions, but I think it was a very, very demoralizing and uninspiring period for most musicians. Especially most of the people I talked to, it inspiration wise, it was very demoralizing. And for me, I started writing a lot of poetry, not necessarily stuff that I will use for Draconian, but maybe. But I was extremely uninspired the first year, the first stage of the pandemic. But then I realized that this is just going to continue for a while. So I just forced myself into writing, and but it was a very strange time. Things were like normal, but at the same time, everything was kind of dead, you know. So yeah, it was very peculiar. But I just shut the curtains and tried to live in my own mind, and I did a lot of good writing at that time.
Did this writing help you to keep your mind sane?
Oh, that was difficult. Well, there was a lot of wine and just sleeping long, like turning the day on its head, and But as long as I wrote something and something, I didn't care. The structure, I didn't really have much structure, and I think there's a lot of people who can who I'd speak for as well.
So can it be said that there was an Anders before the pandemic and there is another after the pandemic?
And Anders,
Yeah.
well, it didn't really affect me that much, but during the time when I really started to feel it, it was I had to like have a relationship with that situation that the world was in, and I started to feel it deeply. So for me, I wrote about it. I remember I wrote a longer lyrical poem in two parts that was called The Unforgiving Void, which described the pandemic and the atmosphere around it and how people acted in contrast to the environment. So my way of dealing with it again was to write, and when I wrote about it, I could take a step outside of it and remember what it was like when there was no pandemic, but it didn't affect me that much as it did other people.
The Unforgiven Voice makes a great song title.
Yeah, it's a good song title.
Well, do you think humanity has learned something from the pandemic?
Who? What?
Do you think humanity has learned something from the pandemic?
Unfortunately, only temporarily. Unfortunately, it's the human's situation or the human mentality is a little bit that we never learn from our mistakes. And I see how the discourse is online on Twitter. People are just doubling down on their stupid, retarded bullshit, all the noise, all the like, especially the right-wing populism and all that crap. People don't learn. They they don't have any relationship to their own mortality and their own frailty. And I think it's sad, I think we should learn, because when the pandemic happens and when things just die down like it did, just proves how fragile we are, and that we are maybe should be a little bit more humble towards our own existence and grateful for what we have.
Well, let's sum this up with a message for the Brazilian fans.
Yeah, finally, 20 years, there has been something called Come to Brazil, and sad to say we didn't come earlier, but now we in the next month it will finally happen, and I hope to see as many of you there as possible. So please come and say hi, and let's have a chat, and let's make the best out of it. And as I said, I will be there 1 week earlier. Yeah.
Let's join for a beer.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Thank you so much, man, for your time. Hope you liked this conversation as much as I did.
Yeah, it was great. Well, thank you for your time, and yeah, for giving Draconian some shout out.
Okay, see you in São Paulo in a couple weeks. Bye bye.
Bye.